Oh, yes.
Okay, everybody.
This one, we have to be off by 5:30.
Yeah, I understand. There's a town meeting
Special
too.
town meeting.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna call the meeting to order. And the first item on the agenda will be to approve the minutes of February 8th. Is there any discussion? Motion to approve,
So
Make
move.
that motion.
okay? Any discussion? No discussion? Everybody raise your hand or say aye.
Need a second to that
Aye.
motion.
Need a-
I'll second it, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna accept the vote as approval of the minutes. So, welcome to our meeting tonight. In preparation of this meeting, there's been a lot of correspondence and communications from multiple people. We've had legal advice from the town's attorney and the representatives in the neighborhood who have had legal advice.
This is
My
it?
point right now is to remind everybody that we will
It's not
not
your
be
meeting.
taking a vote
Is it?
on any action tonight.
It is?
And I'm gonna open the meeting
There you go.
and hope that the Northeast Harbor Fleet representative, they are on the agenda, and if they have something to say,
You're right there.
we're ready to listen.
Hey, great. I'm Franny Charles, and I'm the manager of the Northeast Harbor Fleet. And I do have something to say. First of all, I'd like to say that we apologize for not starting a dialogue with our neighbors sooner before suggesting additional moorings be installed at Gilpatrick Cove. We should have done that as our first step, and we didn't, and we apologize for not doing that. In January at the Harbor Committee meeting, we heard that the Harbor Committee had objections to the Gilpatrick Cove moorings extending too far to the southwest from the shore. And the Harbor Committee asked us to come up with a plan which would significantly bring the perimeter back into shallower water. The newly designed anchorage for IODs and looters with many of the existing moorings in Gilpatrick realigned was the result of that request. The Northeast Harbor Fleet wants to be a good neighbor while also trying to get additional people out on the water. And the organizations which make up the fleet as a whole entity are simply break-even operations, which also happens to manage these three corporate entities to serve those ends. As you know, we've got a popular fuel dock at Clifton, which serves transient, recreational, and commercial vessels year-round. We've got a mooring rental service where we service and seasonally rent the moorings, probably the most on MDI and probably the lowest prices on MDI. And we also have fully licensed launch service at Gilpatrick Cove. We have a youth and adult sailing program and motorboat education, which is offered at almost no cost to local youth and employs probably the second largest employer of local youth age 15 to 21 in the town of Mount Desert in the summer. So our desire to provide more opportunities by getting people on the water is limited by an inability to moor boats. And we want to be inclusive, but the reality is that there might need to be other creative ways to achieve this vision. We think that we should probably consider camel docks on moorings to get more than one boat on the same stone. Perhaps using anchored rafts to accommodate centerboard style boats. Perhaps owning more boats by the club and sharing them instead of everyone having their own private boats. So these are all things that we would like to discuss amongst ourselves and with our neighbors, but we'd also like to end this discussion to consider adding moorings in the South Cove, Sergeant Head, Gilpatrick Cove area for the time being. We are not looking to move forward with that, and the officers and the staff of the fleet would like to understand exactly what additional info the harbor master would like us in the future to provide in order to make an application. The ordinance refers to an application form which has not been provided to us. Additionally, we'll we will complete the Army Corps of Engineer permitting for our over 100 moorings in the Gilpatrick Cove area immediately, which will then upload to the town of Mount Desert for tracking mooring services and inspections and collecting the annual fee. We certainly hope that the fleet's not being singled out, that all the moorings along the east side of the sound at Abels and Jocks and Bracy Cove and Bear Island will also be required to be permitted by the ACOE in the very near future, and then upload to the town for inspection and fee collection. So thanks for your time in this process. We hope to demonstrate our commitment to having valuable dialogue, which includes listening to the needs of the entire community now and in the future. So that's my statement.
Okay, actually, I'm going to ask for a statement from John, the harbor master, in regards to how to proceed.
I guess now that you're kind of stepping back from this, but you're potentially wanting to revisit it in the future to some extent, is that what I'm hearing?
Well, for right now, we'd like to just leave it all alone. And if we do, we certainly want to have dialogue with our neighbors first and foremost before we move anything forward. And we think that's the one thing that we didn't do up front, and we should have done that first and foremost.
Yeah, that was one of my comments at a previous meeting that you hadn't
Communicated with.
Yeah, I mean, the communication line is, I think what really offended a lot of people, that they were surprised by this. I think they thought that it potentially was further into the process with the Harbor Committee than it was. So I think there's a little bit of learning on both ends. For what I would like to see from you is you're already currently doing, you're getting yourself into complete compliance with the Town of Mount Desert ordinance and the Army Corps' rules and legislation to have your moorings under their permits to be able to rent them for profit. And, you are doing that, and I have spoke with the Army Corps to confirm that. So I'm happy to see that that is happening. Depending on what your plans are in the future, depends on, what this office may require of you for what you're looking to do. It's hard to, give you, a road to follow if I don't know where you're going.
Sounds good. I accept that. Yeah.
With, dialogue between us, as you come up with some sort of plan, and then, I can give you a roadmap to get back to a position of, me making a decision on whether I would grant your proposal or not.
Sounds good, John. That we'll take your advice.
Does anybody have any questions or comments they would like to make? And I'm opening this to the public that's on the Zoom meeting too.
Sure, members of the committee. This is Stephen Wagner. I'm the attorney for the South Shore Cove Association. If I may just take a few minutes.
Absolutely.
Sure, thank you. So as I said, I represent the South Shore Cove Association. And so that's an informal group of shorefront owners and what I would describe as general stewards of the Cove, many of whom are here virtually tonight. And so I just wanted to introduce myself, and can I confirm that you all received the letter that we submitted with a report from a GIS consultant?
That's correct. I forwarded it to the committee, and I'm assuming that the fleet members have also received a copy of it.
They should have, but can I confirm, did you get a copy as well?
I did get one forwarded from John. Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you, John, for forwarding that. And sorry, my office didn't forward that directly. We'll make sure that we have proper contacts going forward. So I just briefly, I think I'm encouraged to see that we all do seem to be to some degree on the same page, that the next step here is to really step back. So the only point I think I'd like to make tonight is that, as I read the ordinance, and I suggest that the approach here is that should really start with to the extent that the fleet wants to move forward in any way with moorings in what we are calling South Shore Cove, that process begins with a mooring plan. And I don't think either the harbor master or this committee or any of us collectively, as the community here, can possibly begin to evaluate what moorings, what amount of moorings, if any at all, and by whom would be appropriate for this particular section until we go through that planning process to identify what mooring field, if any at all, is appropriate here. And if so, how many moorings would be appropriate for this cove. And I think that's especially important when we put this in context. And this is why the group felt strongly about submitting this GIS report, to just really put into visual why this cove is so special to many of the groups that are here today. The unfettered views and the lack of development for over half a century is why I think it has attracted such a diverse viewpoints that have commented on this proposal. So I just want to highlight that, because I think it's important and I think the committee can take a leading role through the harbor master and through everyone here to take a step back and look at this issue even more broadly than just a particular proposal. So that's what I offer for you, and I hope that those materials we submitted are helpful in that effort. And I can certainly answer any questions about those, but that's all I have to say tonight.
Thank you. We're going to, from the Harbor Committee's point of view, we're going to follow our own regulations and the advice of the town's attorney on the procedure of this application and changes. So our role right now is not to advise or speculate in any way. And it's up to John. Actually, the bulk of the decision falls on his shoulders. Our role would be to hear dissent or approval at a later date.
Could I actually just one point of clarification? Would you be able to circulate that opinion from the town council, just so we have that for the record?
Sure, we can share our attorney's advice to the Harbor Committee for sure. If you don't already have it. Does he have it?
I don't think they do, but
Yeah.
I can forward that on.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yes, I have a comment. So my name is John Henry. I'm a representative, a flag officer at the fleet, and also the president of the Clifton Dock Corporation. So this is kind of directed at Steve. Could you somehow identify who you're actually representing so that we don't have any ex-party conversations with any of your clients?
Sure, I can provide you a list. I want to make sure I have an accurate list rather than try to summarize it tonight. But so could you, I think my letter would have my contact information. Would you mind reaching out to me directly so that I can provide you that list?
Absolutely.
Right.
Steve, this is Donna Reese. I'm a Harbor Committee member. will you be providing that information of who you represent to the Harbor Committee and to John as well?
I'd be happy to do that, yeah.
Okay, so if you could just reach out to either Rick and the rest of the committee, if you don't have all of our email addresses, and to John, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I would advise the information come directly to the harbor master and he will forward it to the committee.
Okay.
John, did you have a comment? No, any other comments?
I do not at this point.
Is there anything else we would like to discuss about this proposal?
I had a.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm Jean Burden, and I don't think I'm part of the Cove part yet, but I am on the water right outside the harbor. So I just had and I haven't versed myself well enough in the details, but just want to comment from my point of view. I do love seeing an unobstructed view, and I have 3 moorings outside the harbor. And I always ask that the prettiest boat go on the outside that we can see from our windows. The other side of it is that we're right next to where people speed into the harbor. And this is not the topic of this meeting, but it is a problem for my wooden boat that I'm trying to get a mooring in the Fleet area, Gilpatrick Cove, because my 100-year-old boat is getting pulled apart by the wake. So that's just something that's totally unrelated in some respects, but why I want a mooring, and I'm on the list to get a mooring in Gilpatrick Cove, and I'm putting other pretty boats hopefully in front of our house.
Thank you. If there's no more comments, and there's nothing-
I have a comment. This is Margot Bass.
Okay.
And I am being represented by Stephen Wagner along with other neighbors. But I just wanted to make clear that in reading the land use ordinance, I felt like there's a real issue about whether Clifton Dock and the Fleet are proposing to create a new marina in our cove, because boats would be serviced there and they would be towed in and out of there if they needed to be. And it's a whole new area. It's separate from Gilpatrick Cove. It's divided by Gilpatrick Ledge. And I just wanted the harbor master to consider, if this application comes back to you, that this should really go to the planning committee for them to look at the land use and determine whether or not this is a new marina. My other comment is that this cove has been wild and natural probably since about 1956, with no docks and no permanent moorings. And so we really think that the committee should consider creating an anchorage only cove here, like Valley Cove, that's protected, because so many of the coves in the town of Mount Desert are developed with large docks and large boats. And this is a really special place that it's right next to Northeast Harbor, and all the boats coming into Northeast Harbor get to appreciate the views of this cove and the historic homes there in an unfettered way. Plus there are kayakers and now paddleboarders who use the cove along with harbor seals. So this is a really special place, and we hope that the Fleet, being a member myself of the Fleet and loving the Fleet, we hope that the Fleet will recognize how special this cove is. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
John, did you get any other correspondence, letters from anyone or else to add for record?
I did. I just received a letter that was walked in by hand from a group of 8 resident fishermen that I will get scanned in and make part of the record.
And is there gonna be a place either in the town's data back where everything's kind of grouped for this subject matter, meaning if people wanted to review it, or now if it comes up again, we'll have a collection of all the correspondence and information regarding this matter?
I will make a file for it in the harbor master's server, but it would have to be asked for it wouldn't be open to the public without someone asking. But I could make it available to anyone that wanted it.
Yeah, I just think it's important for all sides to have their chance to be representative and be able to be read evenly.
Yeah, I think there's somewhere between 15 and 20 letters, and the correspondence from Rudman and Winchell.
And I have another comment, if I may, which is again, in relationship to Margot's comment. It is a special cove, and this is again unrelated to the specific problem, but I do wonder, because here, I don't know how many other meetings I'm going to attend. I do wonder, what about these huge yachts that come out and with their power going? Do we have any control over that? These in the summertime, the mega yachts that keep their generators running till all hours in the morning, and the seals are scurrying away, and all the wildlife is scurrying away because these horrible boats are, I mean, as far as me being a landowner and hearing all these things, I just call them horrible. So is there do we have any control there?
We do not. The
Yeah.
water is open and free to everyone. So anybody can come up into the sound and anchor their 200-foot motor yacht for if they want to, and there's nothing that we can do about it, unfortunately.
Thank you very much.
I just had one more comment, if I may. This is
Sure.
Margot Bass again. Speaking for the neighbors, we're actually still very concerned about the 4 moorings that are there that the fleet put in without notifying any of the neighbors. There was no notification, and we didn't even know that it would happen until there were actually boats moored there. And we would like to respectfully request that the fleet remove those moorings until they can go through a formal process with the harbor master and with discussions with the neighbors because of the impacts of those 4 moorings. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. I advise everybody to become familiar with the harbor ordinance as it is written, because it's pretty specific and clear about who has the authority to do what. And basically, permission to put moorings down and create even a new mooring field falls on the shoulders of the harbor master. The harbor committee's role is advisory if there's an appeal or disagreement with the harbor master's decision. And it's pretty specific in our ordinance. And our legal advice is that we wait for formal applications, and we'll follow the rule of law as it's written right now.
We do respect that, and we did read that the harbor master also has authority to revoke mooring permits. So I guess I should direct that specifically at the harbor master, that we would really appreciate the permit for those 4 to be revoked until there could be a mooring plan for the cove made and a consideration of the environmental and public safety and traffic issues. Thank you.
You want me to respond to that?
Sure.
I would say at this point, I made the decision to give those 4 moorings to them to see how it would work in that area. At this point, if you wanted to challenge that, you need to appeal my decision to the harbor committee.
Harbor Master, this is Stephen Wagner. I certainly don't think we need to get into this particular decision now, because that's not squarely before the committee. And I agree with the chair's recommendation that these sort of inquiries should be directed through the harbor master's office. So I don't think we need to get into that now. But could I just ask a clarifying question to the harbor master, if you will? And I understand if you don't want to answer this now. Could you clarify whether those 4 are considered permanent moorings? Because my understanding, I thought was that from some prior comments in the meeting that those were just test moorings, and so that their approval was temporary in nature.
Sure. Yes, I did put them, I give them permission to put them in there on a trial period, but everything that I was concerned about when I gave permission for those 4 moorings, I found nothing to give me cause to revoke those at this point yet.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
You didn't create a dangerous scenario for anything. They all held well. So at this point, I don't have reason to revoke.
I have another question, Jean Burden here. There was some mention that the ones that would be, if it were approved, that they would only be beautiful sailboats, looters, and IODs. Now, can we make a rule like that? That would be lovely if you know, I'm just asking this question. Can we do that? Can we make a rule like that?
I mean, I think the fleet was going to impose that rule on themselves.
Yeah.
So, you know, that is an awesome offer, is for somebody to impose rules on themselves that are not necessarily needed. So, but at this point, the fleet has said that they are backing away from this proposal.
Yes, yes.
So, and they don't have any, you know, intent to move forward at this time. So,
I guess that would be a planning board thing maybe then, because I would think it would be a little frightening to say yes one day to a self-imposed thing that might change for the neighbors. Thank you.
Is there anything else on our agenda that we would like to talk about? Our next meeting is scheduled for April 12th. A month away. We're open to hearing from each and every one, or any new issues that you'd like to bring up. If there's nothing else to discuss, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is that seconded?
Seconded.
Second.
All in favor? Raise
Aye.
your hand to say
Aye.
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 opposed. Carried. Thank you very much, everybody.
Everyone involved, just one quick thing, the town clerk has asked me to remind you that there is a special town meeting tonight at the elementary school, and they need bodies to make sure that they have the numbers to take votes. So if any of you have the ability to vote and are willing to go, they would welcome you.
Thanks,
Thank you
John.
very- Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.